I'm back with another sit-down video, and today I'm going to be talking about dealing with challenging parents. I'm not going to use the word difficult parents because if you really think about it, these parents typically are just more challenging to you as a teacher as opposed to just flat out difficult. So before I talk about what I have found to be the key for me in dealing with challenging parents, I am going to offer one piece of advice that I think you could use as a teacher just starting out, or even if you're a teacher now, that will hopefully kind of keep some of these challenging parents at bay or minimize the amount of scenarios that would cause these types of parents to kind of come out and present themselves to you in the classroom during the school year. And so the piece of advice that I would have to start is, before you implement anything in your classroom that a parent might question, such as your classroom management system, your grading policy, just any decision that you've made in the classroom that may cause a parent to question it, really think long and hard about what you're doing and why you're doing it, so that should you have to sit down with the parent and, for lack of a better term, defend the decision that you've made, that you feel very secure and very comfortable in the decision that you made because you've already thought it through and you've already looked at it at all angles and you just really feel good about what you've done. So I would definitely suggest doing that. Don't just haphazardly throw a management system together without really thinking about all the ins and outs of it. Don't just, haphazardly decide how you're going to grade something and how you're going to maintain your grade book without really having thought about it, because typically that's where a lot of the issues come from when you're dealing with these quote-unquote challenging parents. So when I was thinking about putting this video together, I thought to myself, there are really three different types of challenging parents from my experience. There's the aggressive parent, the helicopter parent, and then the worrying parent. And I really think any parent that you've deemed as challenging, typically they'll fit in one of those three categories. So very quickly, the aggressive parent really is that parent that you eventually get to the point where you realize nothing that you do seems to make them happy, and they are very vocal about it, whether they come to you and tell you that they are not happy about something, whether they send you an email and tell you how unhappy they are about something, whether they talk to your principal and tell your principal how dissatisfied they are. It's clear that they're not happy with a lot of what you're doing, and they don't have any issue in expressing that. And sometimes it could be their overall demeanor around you tells you that they are not happy with you as a teacher. The second type is one that I'm sure we've all heard of, called the helicopter parent. And they are called that because they are always just kind of hovering around. They're always there. They're always just look that way or look this way. And even in the fact that they're always there, from my experience, they are different from the aggressive parent in the sense that they're not there because they aren't happy with what you're doing. They're just there because they are hyper involved in their child's day-to-day life at school and in their child's education as a whole. And really, you can't fault them for that. And then the third type of parent that can be challenging is the worrier. This is the parent that is always concerned that maybe their child has a learning disability, thinks that maybe they need to be on medication, is worried about them interacting with others. And a lot of times, this parent, because there are definitely kids that have a disability that need to be tested, but these are the parents that have these worries. But as far as you're concerned as the teacher, these worries are not necessary. Like, their child doesn't have a learning disability and you would not suggest that their child be on medication. It's just kind of maybe their child needs to mature a little bit. So those are the three parents. And I had one of each in my class the previous school year. And I've had at least one every year. Like, every year there's going to be a parent that presents some kind of challenge. So my solution, or my approach to dealing with these parents, once again, like my classroom management video, can really be summed up in one word. And for me, that word is engage. So you need to engage each type of these challenging parents. And the way that you engage each type may look a little bit different because they're coming to you with some different issues. But the bottom line is, you don't want to avoid these parents. You actually want to bring them in and engage with them and talk to them as much as you can, so that whatever issue you're having can hopefully be resolved. So let's first talk about the parent that is aggressive and they are not happy with you as a teacher, and there's very little that you do that seems to make them happy. You still need to engage with them. Typically, this parent starts off by either sending in a note or sending you an email, or they may speak to you in person, and they are very clear in expressing what it is that they are unhappy about. And the tone in which they do it is, to me, very aggressive. Like, there's no softness to it. There's no real diplomacy to it. It's just straightforward. I'm not happy about this. You gotta hear them out. You gotta let them say their piece and listen, and actively listen to what they're saying. Don't listen with the intent to defend. And when they're done, you need to respond to them. Now, in your response, if you're defending something that you've done, go ahead and do that, but you wanna really keep in mind your tone of voice, your word choice, your body language as you're doing it, and all of that, so that you don't come across as aggressive. If it's through email, I would highly suggest that you don't respond to that email right away. Definitely respond to it within 24 hours. But when you read the initial email, chances are you're gonna read that and you're gonna be beyond irritated, upset, raging, whatever word you may use. You might need to read it. What I would do is I would read those emails and I would be just so upset, and I would go next door to my friend Liza and I would be like, can you believe this? This is what this parent said, and get all of that out and really just like vent about it and have a sounding board. And then eventually, when I would calm down, I would calmly draft a response to that email where I'm addressing each of the things that they said. The only thing I will say about email is when I would have parents like that, I would limit the email exchange to about 3 exchanges. So the initial email, my response, their response back to me, and then that 4th email and response would simply be, okay, I think we need to meet in person to talk this out. Because when you just keep going back and forth in email, it starts to escalate in a way that neither one of you probably intended. And emails are very easy to misinterpret in terms of tone and intent. So the experience I had this past school year, I had a parent who it eventually became clear that was not happy with me, and there were a couple things that were issues for them, and there was one exchange where it was too much going back and forth for my comfort level. So I suggested that we meet with the principal to kind of hash things out. We didn't end up doing that, but my purpose for that was really to show, look, I really do want to work this out, but I don't think email is the proper venue to do it anymore. And, you know, perhaps we need to bring in the principal just to have a 3rd set of ears that will maybe hear something that I'm not hearing as the teacher and you're not hearing as the parent, and we can find some middle ground. And I honestly think when you do that with a parent that's aggressive, you really reclaim control of the situation. You don't want to wait for them to go to the principal and say, I need to meet with you and the principal to solve this matter. You need to take control of the situation and show them that you're so comfortable in what you're doing and what you're saying that you have no problem initiating that meeting with the administrator and them to kind of hash things out. And I have found oftentimes parents, they won't say it because, you know, you're having some issues, but oftentimes I've found that they respect that you're willing to do that because you really are trying to solve that particular problem. So that's how I have that's how I've engaged an aggressive parent. Hear them out, respond to them in confidence and well thought out responses. Don't exchange too much in email. And if it comes down to it, take control of the situation and suggest that you meet with your administrator to kind of hash things out with a 3rd party. The second one is the helicopter parent, that parent that's just always hovering around. They're there all the time. You turn left, they're there. You turn right, they're there. Because they are invested in their child's education, and rightfully so. So I had one of those as well this year, and I really wasn't mad about it because that's really what you would want, every child's parent to be to some extent. You want every child's parent to be extremely invested and concerned in their child's education and what their child is doing and what they could be doing at home to support your child. Because so many times as teachers, I know I've said in some situations, and I've heard others say, you know, we can't do it all by ourselves. There's so many things now that need to happen, not only in the classroom, but at school, and we need the support of parents. So when you have that helicopter parent, sometimes you need to recognize this is what you want. This is the parent that we want. They're a little over the top sometimes and a little hyper involved, but I'd rather a parent be hyper involved than me having to seek them out and search for them and beg and plead for them to take an interest in what their child is doing. But same thing, you need to engage these parents. Typically they want to know, okay, what can I do at home? What resources do I need? What are you doing in class? How can I help him study for this particular exam? And a lot of times, in order to give them the information they're looking for, you need to meet with them in person. So the particular parent that I'm thinking of this past year, I don't know how many times I met with them. It was either the mom or the dad or a combination of the two. I honestly lost track. It was pretty frequent that we met. But every time they met, they really just wanted to learn about what was I doing in the classroom as a teacher and how can they translate that learning at home. So we would sit down and look at curriculum. I would sit down and kind of walk them through a summarized version of a lesson that I taught. I would give them some resources that I thought would be helpful. And what was nice about that is in the process, I got to know them a little bit better, not just as parents to their student, but as people. And they got to know me a little bit better, not just as their child's teacher, but also as a person. And that kind of connection helps to forge positive working relationships with parents. So the helicopter parent, even though you think you're engaging them because you see them all the time, engaging them really means saying, yes, let's go ahead and meet on Tuesday so I can go over this lesson that we recently taught. Or let's go sit down at the computer and let me show you how to navigate through this website that we use in the classroom. They really will appreciate that. And in all honesty, I know some of us don't want to hear it, but meeting with parents like that, as far as I'm concerned, that is a part of our job. That is a part of teaching and supporting your students in your classroom, is sitting down with their parents when they requested to meet with them. Of course, you're going to, if they request meetings every single day of every single week, that's a bit much. So you do have to have some kind of boundaries there, but definitely meeting with them as frequently as you feel it would be helpful is extremely important. And it's a part of what we need to do as teachers. Now, the last one is the worrier. This is the parent that is always worried that, okay, maybe my child has ADHD. Do I need to put them in counseling? Do I need to get them on medication? Do they have friends? Why are they not getting straight A's? Do I need to get them a tutor? Those kinds of things. And this is, when I'm talking about this parent again, their worries are, from my perspective, premature. I'll say that, not unfounded, because that sounds like they don't know what they're saying, but from my perspective as a teacher, maybe they're premature. So I had a parent like that this year where her son, he was very bright, but just kind of was one of those kids that needed a little extra help with just kind of being organized and being attentive in class. He tended to kind of daydream, and he would miss directions here or there. But when I worked with him and he spoke in class and responded to questions, you could tell he was extremely bright. But just his executive functioning in the classroom suffered a little bit, and sometimes that affected his grades because he had assignments that weren't turned in, or he didn't read the directions, or whatever the case may be. But again, with her, I engaged her, and my engagement with her was a lot of me reassuring her and letting her know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if I ever was at a point where I felt like your child had some serious learning disability or some serious emotional issues that were impeding his learning or needed to be retained, I would definitely let you know. Like, that would not be a surprise to you. I would reach out to you and let you know. So the fact that I haven't done that yet is a good indication that from what I'm seeing, he's fine. He just needs some extra support here and there, and that's well within the function of my job as a teacher in the classroom. It's just helping to support him in terms of getting organized or being a little bit more focused in class. But I met with that parent quite a few times as well. Showed her some resources that we're doing in class, gave her some suggestions of things she could do at home in terms of, the curriculum itself, but we talked a lot about like strategies I've used in the classroom to help him stay focused and stay on track that she might be able to implement at home, and just kind of collaborated in that way to kind of support him. By the end of the year, or I will say at the beginning of the year, the relationship I had with this parent, it wasn't combative in any way, but I knew there was a lot of apprehension on her part, and she was a little unsure of me as a teacher and my methods and my strategies. But by the end of the year, we had a very good relationship, so much so that, you know, we definitely want to keep in touch going forward, because again, through those engagement interactions that I had with her, I got to know her and understand her more as a parent and as a mother and as a person, and she got to know and understand me more as a teacher and as an educator and as a person. And there was a certain level of trust that we established between the two of us, and that helped us out a great deal. So the sad part is there's always going to be those challenging parents. If you have a year and you have 0 challenging parents, consider yourself lucky. But the key for me has been, when I make a decision in my classroom, I am extremely secure in it. And when I'm that secure in it, I don't really have any issues with defending it and giving my rationale behind it, whether I have to defend it to the parent or I have to defend it to the principal, if it ever gets to that case. And I don't think that means I'm rigid. I think that just means I'm confident in what I'm doing, and I'm confident for a reason. Like, what I'm doing has proven successful before, and that is why I'm confident in it. I'm not just confident in it because it was my choice and I'm so confident in myself that I never make any mistakes. That's not the case at all. So I definitely think when you have those challenging parents, you need to engage them. Some of the mistakes that I've seen teachers make in the past, and it's typically with newer teachers because you're just not quite as sure of yourself, is you tend to avoid interacting with those parents. You see them coming, you turn the other way, you exchange too many emails back and forth with that parent, or you just let that parent intimidate you to a point where now you've lost control of what you're doing as a teacher. Even though you know that what you're doing was right, you just have lost control because you're so nervous or frightened of that parent coming to you or questioning you or going to the principal. Look, if a teacher if a parent goes to a principal, that's never a good feeling, but you can't function as a teacher and do things and make decisions as a teacher all in the name of avoiding a parent going to a principal. I think that can be a very dangerous thing. And you never, ever, even if it's that aggressive parent that makes you feel a certain kind of way, you never want to behave in a way that makes them feel you don't want them around. So even if they are not cordial, not polite, not pleasant to you, you got to come to school every day, say good morning, smile, invite them in your classroom. And all 3 of those types of parents, even the aggressive one, I repeatedly was open to the idea of them coming into the classroom to see how I teach, see the methods that I'm using, and that tells them that you really have nothing to hide, that you really do want them to see how you're running your classroom so that they can have a better sense of what's going on a day-to-day basis in your classroom. So, you know, don't avoid them. Make sure you're cordial and polite to them. Be professional at all times. Just kind of, you know, be confident in who you are as a teacher and let the rest kind of fall into place. So, those are my tips on dealing with challenging parents and the 3 types of challenging parents I think that there are out there. If you have any questions or points that you feel like I did not address, please feel free to leave those questions in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer them. If nothing else, please give this video a thumbs up so that more teachers are able to see it and get any type of help they need from it. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already done that, and I will be sure to see you guys in the next video. Until then, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.